Hey everybody, ChillCraft here. As I was working on my next video that a lot of you guys asked for feedback on the concept of farming and grinding, I was running Mara and I was super excited, super pumped. It's been about the 5th time I run the incidents here. I got my Blackstone ring. It was a kind of like a very toxic group and I was able to get that and I beat a warrior for that. And I was super excited. So the next thing I found out, Dire Maul's coming out. Now, for those of you guys who might not be unaware, Dire Maul is basically it's a winged endgame dungeon. It's very similar if you've gone through the Scarlet Monastery dungeon, where, you know, depending on specific levels, you're either doing graveyard or library, armory, or whatnot. With the exception that this is an endgame dungeon, and we have Dire Maul North, East, and West, and this is an endgame dungeon located in Fairless. And one of the things that we want to think about with Dire Maul is that there's a lot of consideration that happens now that Dire Maul will be introduced in the game next week. And this is what I really wanted to talk about. I think I'm going to make a separate video that goes into a little bit talking more about everything else that's included in Dire Maul. But with 1 week to prepare, I wanted to talk about how we can kind of think about and prepare for the Dire Maul release. The first consideration you guys want to think about is that everything pre-Bis in terms of the lists will change. What I want you guys to do is revisit some of the class guides that you've used for leveling and look to see if there's an older revision for it. Now, the reason why is that before Blizzard went ahead and kind of created that phase release system, there was a lot of theory crafting whether or not DM would make it at launch, and because of that, you'll see a lot of guides that have the DM content basically available in the pre-Bis guide. Now, for almost all the classes, you're going to see about 4 or 5 items change, especially when we think about the caster gear. They got a lot of significant upgrades in DM. Now, the reason why you guys want to do this is because you don't want to waste time or money grinding for gear that might be surpassable very shortly. This is especially important to consider in the fact that DM for a lot of the cases will have gear that will take you all the way to BWL. And so a lot of time you guys might be spending in BRD or the Blackrock Spire. You're not going to have to be doing that in the future. So it's just something to consider. Now, the second consideration that you want to have in terms of preparing for DM is that inflation will happen. So for some of you guys that are wondering, okay, talk to me about inflation and why this is going to happen. So inflation for the common day lingo is basically the increase of goods or services over time. Now, when we consider WoW Classic, this basically means that the price of everything's going to go up and the price of, services or professions is going to go up. Now, this also has an inverse effect where it reduces your purchasing power. So what that basically means is 1 gold today will not mean 1 gold tomorrow. Now, also one of the things to consider is that with the fact that the purchasing power of our gold goes down, we will have to turn 1 gold into something like 10 gold by next week. So with inflation, we have all these other considerations. Now you might be thinking, okay, how does inflation happen? Well, with a lot of these instance dungeons, you can't get to the bosses really quickly, but for winged dungeons like Scarlet Monastery and Dire Maul, you're able to basically kind of jump through, skip a couple of the mobs and get to some of the later end bosses. And for the mage and the hunter classes specifically, they're going to be able to do a lot of content by themselves and get that money all to themselves without having to deal with other people. And because of them getting anywhere between 50 to 100 gold an hour by basically rerunning this instance, they're going to introduce that money into the economy, basically shooting the prices of, different materials up, and then also making the power of your money less valuable. So with inflation around the corner, what you should be doing is thinking about how can I invest my money and turn it into more money right now. A lot of us are in the place where, you know, we're either at 60 or we're trying to get to 60, and we maybe have passed, you know, worrying about our amount at level 40, and we're looking at that $1,000 price tag on our epic mount and wondering how are we going to pay for that. And the idea of reinvesting your money right now seems crazy, but I did it. I'll talk about this a little bit later in the video, but you need to do it right now or else you're going to be basically losing out on that money. The third part, which is pretty subtle, is that layering is basically gone, and I expect it to be gone by the time DM releases. So there was an announcement like last week, and some servers have already removed layering, and it's kind of been a little bit under the radar. My expectation is that with the launch of DM, layering will be completely gone on all the servers. And what this will do is we'll see a lot of the available resources will decrease. And this will create an effect where a lot of certain items will go up, their value will go up. And you know, this will apply in the most extreme senses to consumables, just because you're needing to use that all the time. But something as simple as like devil sword leather, I expect the price of that to go up as well. So with these considerations in mind, how should we prepare for DM? Well, the first thing I'm doing is buying materials that will directly influence the market with the DM release. Now, what's going to happen with DM is we're going to have new recipes and new gear will be introduced into the game. So I'm going to go ahead and link to a page that I found on Wowhead that really talks about some of the stuff, and I'll break this down a little bit further in my next video. But one of the big things that will directly influence the market that we want to prepare for and try to buy as much are any of the materials that are used to build the librams. So the librams are basically enchants that you can turn in gear materials for, and you get these enchants, and all these are really upgrades for majority of the classes. The other one is the materials that are going to be used to turn in for very long epic quest line for the epic mounts for the paladins and the warlocks. So any of these items that contribute to any of these sections, as well as some of the recipes that are going to be coming out for blacksmithing and leatherworking, you're going to see the price of these materials go up tremendously. An example of this is the pristine black diamond. So this is used in a lot of the librams. It's used on the paladin quest line, and on my server it was going for about 2 gold to 5 gold, and now it's almost like at 75 plus. So it's something that you want to invest in. I'll go over shortly about what I'm looking at and trying to buy as much of right now momentarily. One of the things I was also thinking about is, you know, maybe I haven't made this video quick enough, and even though it was announced yesterday, if you can't buy any of the materials that will affect the DM market, you should probably invest in twink gear. So World PvP will be around the corner in phase 2, and the idea is the BGs are going to come out in phase 3. But with the way that they've done some of the changes in making DM come out a little bit earlier, I don't believe Blizzard will stick to their schedule. I really see some sort of surprise announcements happening at BlizzCon. For those who don't know, BlizzCon is in November, and it's a convention that every year Blizzard basically runs, and they announce, you know, new updates and stuff like that. And I could see something like, you know, Warsong Gulch coming out at BlizzCon, you know, with the honor system, just because if we introduce just the honor system without battlegrounds, we are going to see a lot of world PvP, and you will see, if you aren't level 60, you're basically going to get camped. So I do see Blizzard trying to look for that as a solution, potentially, by the fact that DM was kind of sprung on us with just a week of anticipation. I think it's something to consider. A site that I personally use to look up twink gear, if you're looking to prepare and buy some twink gear, is shadowpanther.net. The reason why is because for some reason everybody wants to roll either a rogue or a hunter when it comes to battlegrounds. And this site has basically the list of twink gear that you will be basically using as a rogue and a hunter. There are other sites for, shadow priests and other very strong classes for BGs, but I do believe that it is a worthwhile investment, even if I'm wrong and we don't get BGs until phase 3. Now, you might be asking me, ChillCraft, what are you doing? I get these all the time where I'm a little bit ambiguous just because, I want you guys to do some of your research. I'm going to list all the resources that I'm using to look at for finding out, what items will directly affect DM. And I'm also going to have an everything DM video coming out soon. But during this next week, I have a couple items that I try to keep an eye on. And when I look at buying items, the first thing that I'm actually thinking about is diversification. So this is just tips for, keeping an eye out on the future is don't put all your eggs in one basket. So I try to divide it into 3 different categories. One is twink, the other one is profession materials, and the third one is consumable materials. So I actually, as soon as I found out DM's coming, I went ahead and I blew 500 gold that I was saving towards my epic mount at level 52. And now you might be saying, that's crazy, I'm not going to do that. And if you don't do that, and you don't feel comfortable do it, don't do it. But I got a feeling that I will be making my money back, more than 5-fold. Now, I spent about 1/3 of that on twink gear. And that's a lot of items that I actually went out and bought. My favorite item that I like getting for twink gear is the Tiger Strike mantles. I think I have about 10 to 12 of those items. The reason why is this is BIS for level 29 and 39. So not only is this just an outrageously good back that you're going to see rogues and hunters have, you're going to be able to basically cover 2 different brackets if one is more popular than the other. I got a bunch of rings, I got some sentry cloaks, I got some daggers, and I got some warden wraps, which I think are good buys as well. For the crafting materials, I have 2 crafting materials that I'm keeping an eye on. I mentioned the large pristine diamonds for the paladin quests. Those were outrageously bought, but I didn't worry too much about it because, I'm a horde character, so I don't see why that value increased, but maybe there's something I'm missing. But the 2 that I invested in are the large brilliant shards and the larval acids. I'm gambling, but I do think enchanting is going to be able to make a killing on it. I basically bought stacks and stacks of large brilliant shards, everything that was under 2.5 gold, and larval acids. I bought these like crazy because of the fact that these are used in crafting recipes. One notable one, which is the Hide of the Wild, and it's one that a lot of healers want, and you're going to see everybody using this. So the value of these have a really bad drop rate, so I only see the value of this increasing. Now the third are my consumables. Now these are items that I think are something that people are going to be using very, very shortly, and one is the large venom sacks, and the other one is the stone scale eels. Now the large venom sacks are used in potions for nature resist, which might be used more efficiently in AQ, but with world PvP coming out around the corner, this is also used in potions that will clear numerous poisons that are put on you. There's going to be rogues everywhere, there's going to be serpent stings everywhere from hunters, and you're going to see people use this, and the price of this is going to go up. The other one is stone scale eels. Stone scale is used in flasks and in potions that are used for tanking. You're going to see a lot of, I think like harder content come out shortly with BWL that you're going to want to see that this value is actually going to go up in. So it's something that I think when you consider the market that's happening, I just think they're all at good price points. Not a lot of people are jumping on them as other items at the moment, and I think it's a worthwhile investment. I could be 100% wrong, but I kind of had a similar theory with Elemental Fire. So with Elemental Fire, I bought a bunch of these as I was keeping an eye on the market early on, and I was buying these for 1 gold, and I think I got about 100 of these as I was leveling up. And my theory was basically, hey, no one's at 60, no one's running MC yet, so they don't need this. They don't need the pots for this. And as soon as you started seeing the crowd basically get to 60, the value of these went all the way, and I think the medium right now is 3.5 gold to 4 gold. And so I've been able to turn that profit pretty well. Every day I'm putting about 3, 4, 5 different elemental fires, and I'm seeing that value just grow up. So invest with knowledge. Think about mostly who's going to use this item and why would they use that item, and try to diversify. The next video that I'm going to have, it's going to have everything on DM. It's going to talk a little bit about the lore. It's going to talk about what drops and what are the items that are going to be you're going to be looking for as you run a lot of the DMs. It's going to be talking a little bit about solo farming as well, something I'm super interested as a hunter, and I think that you guys will appreciate and enjoy a lot. Once again, thank you all for your support. Thank you for checking out this channel. It's been growing like crazy. It's been awesome to meet some of you guys over there on Twitch, and I appreciate all the kind words and you know, just stopping by and sharing, you know, what's going on, what's working for you, how you're making your money, and hopefully you guys are, you know, being able to afford some of these things. After I talk a little bit about DM, I'm going to go into grinding, and then after that I'm going to start a new series that's really around how to flip the auction house. I think it's the perfect time to get into the auction house right now. They're starting to, with DM, I think there's going to be a stability there where we're going to be able to basically feel out certain trends that are happening. If you've been playing the game and you stayed away from the auction house, there isn't a bad time to get into auction house. And so we'll be getting to that in a couple of videos coming up. Take care, guys.